back. Can't find my controls. Here we go. That's one way to start the day. Uh, I'm trying to get all of this stuff automated in a little bit better fashion, so it's easier to make that transition. So I'm getting there. But what's up, peeps? We're back. Uh, I'm in a rather joyous mood because well, the system took a hit on the chin this week, and it's not what a lot of people are thinking the real hit is when it comes to Robinhood and this whole Wall Street bets and Reddit thing. We're definitely going to dig into that, but I think people are missing some of the specifics and why some of this stuff actually matters. I think people are missing some of it, and I think they're missing the results of what's about to happen. So, very excited to jump into that. It's been a super distracting week for me because this stuff has just been going bananas. But first things first, I wanted to, we always come on here and we try to provide something, some nugget, something about bettering ourselves or moving into new, you know, expansive avenues or ways to basically learn the system. Well, we always say, learn the game and then play the game. And once you learn the game and you can play the game, then you can hopefully, if you play it right, beat the system. And so today there was something that came up when I was shopping recently. I went to the store and I saw this. Mind you, I don't have the before picture, and no, none of these people signed waivers, but most of them are masked. So, apologies if you didn't want your picture shown. But this in particular, this area in our local neighborhood Walmart, if you look at the 11975, there used to be rows coming from there back to the left, and that's where you would, check out the checkout lanes. Well, they actually have now expanded. We used to have four or three self checkout. Well, they've expanded it now. So now we don't have just three. We have these five. Plus, if you look on the back wall, the yellow jackets are the Walmart workers, yes, but those are the same systems that are on the automated side. So if they really and truly wanted to, they could completely get rid of their cashiers. Now, they still need somebody there to help, right? Whenever you get there, you need a little bit of assistance. Uh, checking out, there's something wrong, or you're buying something like detergent that has a lock on it, which I don't know why you would lock the detergent. Like, who's gonna sneak out a big old bottle of detergent? But hey, they have it locked for a reason. Let's just assume. So they're still gonna need to be things, people there to be able to do things. Obviously, you need stockers for now, and you need some level of support. Well, if you kind of just start reading the tea leaves, and this isn't a knock against cashiers or anything. When I was young, I told my mom that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a cashier because I just enjoyed bagging groceries. And so it's just a point to make that you understand. Because there's going to come a time. Today we're going to be talking about the financial system. But there's going to come a time where there may be an uprising because people are being replaced by robots. And this is why I said you need stockers for now. I just saw a video on Twitter I didn't even think to pull it down, but this video showed a machine riding along the floor, following the line, basically, got to the edge of what would be like the stacked shelves, went up the edges, across the aisle. I mean, you know what I'm saying? The level on the, why can't I think of this? Uh, the shelf. Went up to the right shelf, went over and picked something up, and then reversed and came back down. If you could imagine a workforce that doesn't have labor limits, meaning you can work them 24/7, right? You don't have to let them off. They don't need a lunch. They can operate all throughout the night. If you just put stuff where it has to be and you can allow it to move about and do its thing, which one of these business owners is not going to start automating in some fashion? So, and it's gonna be a bunch of people mad and complaining that this is happening, but it's inevitable. It's going to happen. So I've been pushing this for a while, that you just have to make sure that you are prepared for that eventuality, because it's going to happen. Put yourself in the position to do whatever it takes to exist in that industry, if that's the industry that you so choose. And it's not just about grocery stores. This is about any business, right? Myself being a coder, I mean, it's very much so possible, very feasible, that at some point robots can eventually start writing some code, right? I mean, some of the stuff is very repeatable. Like, hey, I need to build something. I have to adjust this air. For some reason, it's hot in this house. So for some things that are highly repeatable for programmers, it can be like, hey, I need this. And it's like, boom, go do this, right? And there's already certain aspects to that in my industry. So I pay very, very, very close attention to automation because it could come to any industry. So just be prepared. Just understand that it's the nature of business. As a businessman myself, my business expense is people. You have taxes you have to pay. You have to pay their salary, right? It's the biggest expense that business owners are going to have. So capitalism is going to do what capitalism does. There's no way around it. All right. Now, I was just a sidebar. It was just something that was interesting that I saw that I thought this would be kind of interesting to show along the lines of what we've been discussing. And I want to give a shout out to a business because we went to this business. The tantrum room. The weapons of choice. It's going down in the tantrum room. Anyway, you can see that on my Twitter. You can watch the whole video. It's it's on uh, twitter.com/John C. Bland II. I don't usually post personal videos, but I figured I'd go ahead and post that one. But that's Tantrum LLC, Tantrums LLC on Twitter, and it's just fun. Just pay some money and go destroy some stuff. Pick a weapon, sledgehammers, bats, whatever you want to do. Anyway, it was fun. Uh, it's very interesting though. They do themes, and so the examples they gave were, we'll do a courtroom theme for like lawyers, and they said we'll do a classroom theme for teachers, and I was like, wait, are you setting up children in desk? I, I didn't even want to ask because I didn't want to know the answer. I was just like, okay. But I'm sure some people, enjoy getting those themed kind of parties at play. So, anyway, that was fun. Just something fun from the weekend. All right, now there is quite a bit going on when it comes to this impeachment trial, and most of this it's what you would expect, right? And you're gonna have the people on the right. Now, mind you, actually, you know what? I don't think we talked about this. I should have pulled it up, but good old Lindsey Graham. Now we came on here when we first talked about the impeachment trial. I told you guys what was going to happen. You were going to have a complete reversal and flip of what was going on in the last impeachment. The last time, none of the Republicans wanted witnesses. None of them. Like, no, it's not even needed. And now, Lindsey Graham comes out and is unapologetically hypocritical. And let me say he's unapologetic in his hypocrisy, in saying that the Democrats need to allow witnesses, that they don't even want witnesses. It's like, what? Like, I knew, and I said it on here, that you would see this flip and you would see these parties start to switch and change because this is what they do. But to happen so quickly, I mean, we're going on, tomorrow is Biden's second week in office. Well, I guess if you count the first half week, okay, let's call it the third week in office. What? 3 weeks in, and we're already at peak hypocrisy of now wanting witnesses. It's I don't know. If you're watching this show, I assume you're already in the vein of I don't trust these parties, right? But for those of you that are new, I don't understand how you can support these parties. I just don't. I understand when you're blinded by these things, how you can support it, because we all used to be there. The whole crew, all three of the political free agents right now, we all were there at one point. But once you start seeing this, once you start seeing the hypocrisy, like how do you even justify supporting these parties? It doesn't make sense to me. So Trump has come out and he's basically pushed some of his lawyers away. Where they're like, "Hey man, we ain't got time. Like we can't we can't roll with you on this one." And it's fascinating to me because Trump is pushing, and I'm not going to read this whole article on Axios. Those of you that are listening on audio, this article is Trump loses impeachment lawyers days before Senate trial is due to begin. All right, so I'm just going to this one portion here. The Senate trial is due to begin on February 8th. It is unclear who will take the lead now, as Butch Bowers and Deborah Barbier have left the team. Several other attorneys are also reportedly no longer on the team with Trump. And here's the part that's relatively important that I'm calling out here. Is Trump wanted attorneys to argue there was mass election fraud and it was stolen from him, rather than focus on proposed arguments about constitutionality. The point of what the Republicans have been pushing is what you can see down here. And this is a quote from Miller. So Miller said in a statement that it's totally unconstitutional and so bad for our country. He said, in fact, 45 senators have already voted that it is unconstitutional. We have done much work, but have not made a final decision on our legal team, which will be made shortly. So they're essentially trying to, in essence, distance themselves from this by saying, we're still working on the team. These people who left, man, they're not really on the team, sort of thing. It's it's good to me that some people are starting to wake up. And when I say wake up, I don't mean like they're literally asleep or the general notion of what people consider woke, right? I'm not talking about that in any way, shape, or form. I'm talking about people waking up to how divisive and how toxic Trump is and was. I'm having so many conversations with Republicans, and consistently fascinates me how many of them really think Trump was there for them, for the small man, for the individual, and that he wasn't grifting. I had a conversation with a friend, very smart guy, amazing designer, and he's like, from November it was a grift, but that was the Republican Party, and so I like all the receipts are here. So I just pulled up emails from the Trump campaign and just showed him like, no, they were all in on this grift. Like he grifted for 4 years, and like people just aren't realizing. Like I understand that they're always fundraising. Congress, all of them, they're all fundraising, but people getting caught up on this $400,000 he donated every year. Man, he was making millions. They doubled the rent at Mar-a-Lago as soon as he became president. Boom, doubled. I mean, it was pay for play. All of this sort of stuff was happening, right? Now, politics, right? It's dirty. This is what pretty much I'll say the majority of them do this kind of stuff. But to see people starting to distance themselves, they tried to run that train, and it's what we said a while back, is that they're going to milk this situation as long as they can, and they're going to jump off that train. And the majority of them have. You still have people like Matt Gaetz, who's horrible, in my opinion, out here just completely riding the Trump train. But I mean, he golfs with Trump. What do you expect him to do? Like, he's still on the grift, right? So anyway, it's good that I see some people starting to wake up to how wrong they were. I saw a QAnon supporter, and I'm not even going to dig into what QAnon and all that is, but let's just say it's a big conspiracy theory. I don't know if you want to call it a ring, but anyway, saying that he was being interviewed and apologizing to Anderson Cooper for truly believing that he ate babies. Like I'm not joking. Like this is part of the QAnon conspiracy that he was eating babies and drinking their blood. Like some people are waking up, and it's good, but the fact that it happened like that is fascinating because I was watching actually today. I was watching a story about Germany and Nazis, and this is not it's just trying to tie Trump to Nazism. It's not that. It's thinking about the power of influence. Influence can be a very very strong positive tool, but it could be a very very negative tool. And so, for my Trump friends and family, and any of you who are watching that I may not know, I just, and matter of fact, let's not even make it specific to Trump. Let's just say for any of you who are out here riding for any of these politicians, it doesn't matter who they are. When you think about influence, take the religious right and all of the stuff that they were doing to back Trump, right? Religion is very influential in people's lives. You can say something as a pastor to influence people to go a certain direction and do something, right? You can influence them to go against their better financial budgets and tell them, We need people with $1,000 faith to come down and write this check. You don't know why I know? Because I was one of them, walking down there with $1,000 check that I couldn't afford, trying to figure out, thinking, okay, well, God's gonna provide. Pastor said a blessing's coming, right? I've been there. I've been under that negative influence before, right? And watching the TV show, it was on the History Channel, and I don't recall the name, and just digging into some of this old footage, and of course they had some stuff that they were kind of walking through and showing with actors what was kind of going on. But when they were showing live footage, it was something that was interesting to pay attention to. Something I've thought about a lot, but it was just interesting to put video and pictures to it. Is that this wasn't, just like some 2, 3, 4 hour documentary that you watch and it's like, oh man, they should have known this. No, there were minutes, seconds, right? That these were people's lives. Like it wasn't just all doom and gloom every single day for everybody across this time period. There were people who were laughing and joking that were slaves at that time because Hitler needed to get work and these sort of things. They would laugh and joke and find their joy in certain moments. The people who were, brutalizing them, they were doing the same, laughing, joking, eating, kissing their kids, doing this sort of thing, right? So it happens in all of these small moments that end up building up to this thing, right? It's you take the Jews, you take the Jehovah Witnesses and whatnot, and you move them into what they called ghettos, right? Off in Warsaw and all of this. It's just kind of move them in. And then all of a sudden you need people to do some work for you because you're expanded now. You're taking over Poland. You need all this workforce to be able to keep up with production, to take over more of the world. So you start using them as slave labor, right? And it's like these individual things that just kind of keep building and building and building. And then when you step back over time and you start seeing, man, what happened from 1940 to, whatever year you're currently in, you start looking at that time period and you're like, man, the last 4 or 5 years, whatever, it's been wild. Like it's been crazy. But if you're not, you're still honed in and you're still focused there. What are you doing? Like if you're not paying attention to all of the things that happened that were horrible, that were terrible, and you're only trying to pull out these specific proper things that happen, what are you really doing? Right? And again, I'm not trying to say Trumpism is Nazism. What I'm saying is when you look at the influence of what Hitler was doing at that time, and you pay attention to how those everyday individuals were out there committing these horrific acts against other everyday people, it makes you realize that it's not these big systems that are in place that are forcing this. It's coming down, and it's these individual layers that are spreading out, and they're instituting these plans by convincing you through influence that it is the right thing to do. And if you are still under the influence of Trumpism or whatever ism you want to be under, then there's an awakening that needs to happen for you. We've seen this article here from Axios about the Proud Boys, 2 members of the Proud Boys being charged with a conspiracy related to pro-Trump Capitol riot. This I'm not going to go through this whole thing. I just wanted to end off on this point. Is that this dude named Pizzola, Dominic Pizzola, and William Pepe, they removed temporary barricades erected by the Capitol Police to control access to the Capitol and stole property belonging to Capitol Police officers. This is per the indictment. Now we'll see. Is this legit? Is it real? Like, I mean, they'll have their day in court. The evidence will have to be presented. There's a lot of other people who are being arrested for this. And all these people went there under the guise of influence. I don't care if it's Proud Boys, Antifa, BLM, whatever the case may be. All of these people who decide to go to these places and then start committing these acts of violence, they're all under some influence. So just be mindful. Who's influencing you? Okay? Hopefully it's a positive influence that's on you. Like the political free agents. Okay. Quick thing, and then we're gonna jump over to the news of the week. We're gonna leave the last segment, the majority of the rest of the time, all to this Robinhood fiasco, or Wall Street bets, we should say. So just one quick thing. The Pentagon pauses plan to offer coronavirus vaccines to Guantanamo detainees, right? And I only bring this up because it's along the same lines of influence. It really is along those same lines of influence. And I say that specifically because we in America have been convinced that those that are in Guantanamo don't deserve human rights. Right? Guantanamo, hey, you're a terrorist. You're like, oh, you actually haven't tried them in court? It doesn't matter. You're terrorists, right? And even people who don't believe the system and believe the system is corrupt is like, oh, no, no, no. You're in Guantanamo, you're a terrorist. But it's the same system. It's the same system that you're saying that is corrupt is telling you that everybody they've locked in Guantanamo is a terrorist, even though we've seen that not everybody they've locked in Guantanamo is a terrorist. By the way, this was supposed to have been closed under Obama. He said he was going to close it. He came out the gate strong. Looked like he may close it. Never closed. Still there. But now we're basically not providing any vaccines to those in Guantanamo. I mean, and I'm not here to defend anybody in Guantanamo. I'm just saying, just like we tend to pick and choose and allow those to influence us, those in power to influence us, and most people don't even know who or why, who's in there and why they're in there, and whether or not they're deserving to be in there. So, anyway, pay attention to the influences around you. So, along the lines of COVID, it's one thing that I've been seeing a lot is a lot of people tend to think that once they have been vaccinated, like, I mean, they're immune at that point, right? Like, like they can basically just walk around, like they're in a bubble of vaccinated, material. But this article is about Representative Stephen Lynch said he tests positive for COVID-19 after getting second dose of vaccine. So it was something I thought was interesting. He had the second dose of the Pfizer vaccine, and he subsequently tested negative for COVID test prior to attending the inauguration. So it's very interesting just to see. It said he's asymptomatic. We don't know how everybody that's getting this vaccine is going to respond. We just don't know. And there's, to be honest, there's no way for us to know. It was rushed, to get out, and we're hoping that it works. We'll see. The CDC said that it does take a few weeks for the body to build an immunity. So it's a process. We're learning as we go. But if you get the vaccine, just be careful, right? Just be careful. Be mindful that you're not immune It means that you could also get it and still pass it to other people, even though you're asymptomatic, and that's why things like this are starting to happen. Why the CDC is ordering a mask mandate for planes and public transportation, right? This sort of stuff is happening because it's, again, we just don't know. We don't have all of the information. We're in, you know, just as I said about the in the previous segment about Nazism and how in that moment you're not seeing it, right? And we're in that moment right now. We're in the COVID moment. And so we're not seeing the breadth of all of these things. We don't know about this mask mandate, whether or not it's going to be effective or not. We don't know. We don't truly have an understanding throughout this entire thing whether or not any of this is going to work or not. We're figuring out as we go. And that's largely when all of the COVID stuff kicked off. That's pretty much what we said the entire time, was basically that all of this was happening because of uncertainty. Markets were responding negatively. All this stuff was happening because we didn't know whether or not any of this was going to really and truly like be as bad as they were saying it was going to be. We weren't sure, right? And so the markets crashed completely built on uncertainty. That's what it was. So we're still in that moment where we still don't know exactly whether or not any of this is going to really like get us to the point to where we can control this. I mean, you could imagine, that the I'm sorry, I just looked at the chat. Coop was in the chat saying that this is why I don't need to watch the chat because y'all crack me up. He said that that Hitler did all that he did under the promise to make Germany great again. I'm sorry, that's funny. That's funny. That's a good one, Coop. All right, so all of this under the guise of basically having the understanding of like what's going on, right? Under the guise of the money system being sound, right? So we came on here, we spoke. I don't know, pick an episode. We always talk about finances, but we're talking about just how money isn't really what you think it is, right? You think it's solid, right? Like here, like let's. I never have cash, right? But I happen to have some money around today. So $5 bill, right? Whew, the white balance is washing this out roughly. All right, so $5 bill. You believe wholeheartedly that this will buy you $5 worth of whatever, right? But this money has no backing, meaning there's nothing to solidify it. There's nothing that says this money is, worth $5 and can be traded in for something else. We used to have that when we were on the gold standard. FDR ended up blowing that up for a while. He stated that basically, hey, it's illegal to own gold. Nope, nobody can own gold. And so they ended up doing this gold buyback sort of thing, confiscated the gold from the people. That gold that they confiscated, they then years later sold back to the people at a higher price. Uh, like it seems like, no, this didn't happen. Yeah, no, it happened. And what they did was when they confiscated the gold, they ended up increasing the money supply because essentially they needed it for war. All right. 72 comes and Richard Nixon ends up completely getting us off the gold standard. And just now, I mean, you really and truthfully, this cash really could be seen as digital money because it's like just made up. It's out of thin air, right? We've had in the last 20 years, Ben Bernanke, who used to be over the Fed, he came out in an interview and he said, well, yeah, we can increase the money supply just by going into the computer and just moving the decimal. That's all it takes, right? Like it's all funny money. The only reason this $5 has value is because you and a merchant or another person deem it worth uh, the same amount, right? You say it's five, I say it's $5. I have something that I'm selling to you for $5, and now you can take the thing that I'm selling for this $5 bill. It's only because you and I agree that this actually has the value of $5. But you can look across the spectrum of time in the last 40 years or so. I used to wonder how this was even possible when I was a kid. But I was a boiling frog living in this moment where it was actually happening and I didn't even catch it. So, as a kid, you hear these stories. My parents were able to buy a burger for like a quarter. I'm like, what? A quarter? Man, I'd get all the burgers in the world, right? Because, you have $1, that's 4 burgers, right? I was super excited. I didn't understand what inflation meant. I didn't understand anything about monetary policy. And so, if you go back being born and living through the 80s, right? So I get all 10 years of the 80s. Then I get 10 more of the 90s, 10 more of the 2000s. And this whole time, I'm just a frog sitting in water, not realizing that it's starting to get hot. And in those moments, I don't realize that the same $5 that I have right now would not be worth $5 when I was a teenager. I couldn't buy the same amount of stuff. If I took a $5 bill from today with the exact value from today into my teenage years, I could buy more stuff. Now why would that ever be possible? Just because they just keep printing more and more and more money. And when we say printing, they're not really printing. Even Jay Powell came out. Jay Powell came out and he said that, yeah, they basically flooded the system with money during COVID. How do you flood the system with money? Just move the decimal place. That's it. So and this is kind of the precursor to what we're about to talk about, the main topic here, is that you have to understand this awakening that's happening needs to be a deeper awakening, more than just, a hedge fund was bankrupted, right? It needs to be a little deeper than that. The awakening needs to be this money is worthless, right? Now, I'm not going to shield cryptocurrency, but obviously, I mean, you guys know me. I like crypto. I like Bitcoin. You know, I have a bunch of them. I'm not even going to name all of them that I have, but I like Bitcoin. I love ADA for the technology, Cardano basically. I love the technology behind it, but the the idea that people aren't comfortable with cryptocurrency because let's get beyond the volatility, but because they don't believe that it has the value that it has is hilarious when this $5 doesn't have the same value either. So, what happened this week? Nothing. Just a little bit of news. Nothing major happened, did it? I mean, only a hedge fund getting bankrupted. All right. GameStop. The stock went through the roof. And it all happened from a bunch of people on Reddit kind of pumping GameStop. But it's a little bit more to that. So let's get through this article. This is on Axios, making a bit here as well. But what I wanted to show here in this article was Robinhood, which has become synonymous with retail trading, and the parabolic rise of stocks like GameStop and Tesla shut down the ability for its users to buy but not sell on some of the platforms. Charles Schwab, TD Ameritrade, Interactive Brokers, and E-Trade also put restrictions on the high-flying stocks. One thing to note that I'm bringing up, not that's here in the article, or actually, you know what? It may be here in the article. Yeah, so Schwab actually did send out a tweet stating that they didn't halt trading. All they did was adjust the margin requirements, which we'll kind of go over that in a minute. In a minute. And so what happened essentially? I think I may have brought up the wrong article first, but that's all good. We're going to show all these articles. And in this article, it does talk about Thomas Petterfy, who I'm actually going to show video of in a moment because he said the quiet part out loud. This is the, all right, let me back it up. GameStop stock was down to like $10. It was super cheap, and the stock had just started plummeting and plummeting and plummeting last year. Because, I mean, well, think about it. As all brick and mortar companies, you couldn't go to stores, right? So transacting in person took a hit to all of the companies that transact in in person. So they took a pretty big hit. All right, not unexpected, but they took a hit. But then their price kept plummeting. Well, they had new management. They weren't actually their financials actually didn't look terrible. They actually had some promising, or the future was a little bit promising to them in the fact that it looked like they could avoid bankruptcy. Well, it turns out short sellers were driving the price down. This caused, and this was pre-pandemic, this caused one gentleman who on Twitter, he goes by Deep Effing Values or Deep Effing Value, one of the two, and he started pumping like tweets. I mean, posts out left and right about GameStop in I think 2019. And they shouldn't be doing this. This article here from Axios is how Reddit explains the GameStop saga, and it kind of goes into showing who Deep Effing Value on Reddit is. He was posting in the WallStreetBets. He was basically ridiculed, as they say, on being so bullish on GameStop up until last week or so. Then they started praising him as the man, the legend. He's pumped roughly 754,000 into GameStop, which is now last he posted, I believe it was worth about 33 million. At one point, it was up to 47 million. So what happened was he saw what was going on to be completely shorted 147%. Now, if that doesn't make sense to you, I'll give you a simplified explanation. There's way smarter people that could explain this in particular to you. But shorting is basically saying, I believe your stock is going to go down. It's not the same as an option, a put on an option where you're basically saying, I think the price is going to go to 450 as opposed to $10. It's at $10 now. I think it'll go to 450 by June, right? Those expire, okay? The short is like borrowing a stock. It's like telling somebody, hey, let me borrow a stock, and the price then, as you borrow more and more, you basically are driving the price down. It goes down to $4 from 10, and now you get to keep the difference because you sell it back at the time. That's probably a terrible example or explanation, but essentially that's what it's doing. It helps push and force the market down, and they basically shorted more shares than exist. So it was completely artificial what was happening. Now, here's where the system comes into play. Is that while they're shorting this, and this is all public information that's available. It's being shorted, and it's not at all uh, being stopped by the system. Not one bit. The system isn't stopping it. They're not saying, "Hey, you shorted too much of this." You know, none of that. They're just like, "Oh, here's what it is. Go ahead, do your thing." But the minute this thing starts firing off on all cylinders, that's when they step in and they're like, "Wait a minute, something is wrong here. This doesn't look right. We have to stop this." Right? So a lot of this trading was happening on the popular app Robinhood. Robinhood is a place where I started trading. I didn't know much. It was easy. I was trying to learn. I was like, "Hey, I'll jump in here. It's very quick to get money in. Let's do it." What they ended up doing was completely stopping trading or buys on multiple stocks. And what they ended up coming out and saying was it was a liquidity problem. And what they did was ended up raising, an extra $1 billion from their investors so that they could handle liquidity issues. But what they said to the users, they basically told us, because I still have some things in Robinhood, they basically told us that it was due to the volatility. So Robinhood comes out. This is like a business. It's going to probably be a topic in business schools for a long time coming. Robinhood basically came out and they told us one thing that wasn't the real reason why, or let's say it wasn't a full story why this was happening, the halting of trading. And it came on a day that what happened with the stock was it had pumped up to 300 something dollars. Mind you, I said it was at like 10, right? So people got rich off this. It had pumped to like 300 something. And when the markets opened the next day, Robinhood halted buying. Matter of fact, I think it had touched 4 or a little over 4. Robinhood stopped buying. It said you can no longer buy here. Like, you can sell it, but you can't buy it. So what do you think happens to the price? That price goes down and down and down. Ultimately, at the end of the day, on I believe Thursday, it ended at like 150 or something. It was like a 40, I think they said it was like a 47% drop in that one day. And you can see it. You can see the chart. I probably should have brought it, but you can see the chart going down. And then when Robinhood halts it, you can see it just take off. What about this is not market manipulation? Right? Now, you came out the next day, I think on Friday, and said it was because of liquidity. Okay. You say it's liquidity. All of these other people, I mentioned Peffery, who I'll show a video of in a moment, came out and had his statements, and they're basically telling you outright that this is wrong. This shouldn't be allowed. You shouldn't be able to do this, right? But they're the same people who let let GameStop be shorted 147%. That's okay. You can do that. That's fine. But If a bunch of people get together and decide we want to support GameStop, nah, that's wrong. We got to stop that. And so what's happened now is the SEC is actually they're actually going to closely review restrictions on the Reddit fuel stocks because it ended up not just being Robinhood. I had moved over to Webull, excuse me, W-E Bull, Webull. And so I moved over to them and, to try to start toying around with some stuff. Most of my stuff is at Charles Schwab. Charles Schwab didn't stop you from buying. You could buy all day. But they did change, as I mentioned, the margin requirements. Webull ended up uh, coming out and they said outright, our clearinghouse won't allow us to sell anymore. Right? All right, your clearinghouse is blocking you. I get it. Like there's systems in place that this sort of volatility is hard to manage. I get it, right? Robinhood blew the messaging, right? So in this article, the SEC is saying that it's worried about the extreme volatility seen in those names, saying that it has potential to undermine market confidence. But shorting a stock 147% is not. Said we will act to protect retail investors when the facts demonstrate abusive or manipulative trading activity that is prohibited by the federal securities laws. Market participants should be careful to avoid such activity. Now, I went back yesterday and I watched The Big Short because why not? This is, all about a short squeeze, basically. I went back to watch this because it's the system. And matter of fact, sidebar, the main character, Michael Burry, he actually again was on the right side of history. He basically has a boatload of GameStop stock and ended up just making out like gangbusters in this thing. But in The Big Short, basically, Michael Burry figured out that the housing market was a bubble. It was going to crash. He shorted the housing market in a new way that wasn't a possibility. People laughed him out the door. They just knew they were about to win big, and he ended up making multiple billions of dollars. And now he's pretty much a legend in that right. Him and several other people made out pretty big on this. In this scenario, this is, again, the system operating in a certain way, creating a false narrative about the market, deeming it to be relevant, to be something that it isn't, right? And saying that's normal. What I mean by that, okay? GameStop being pushed down to $10. That's normal. That's normal activity. They can do that all day. Whatever they want to do. They want to short it that much, they can do that. Sure. But whenever keep getting these names mixed up. Whenever Reddit comes in and Reddit's like, hey, you know what? We need to go ahead and support GameStop. And they pull their money together and they start buying and buying and buying GameStop. Now all of a sudden, no, whoa. That's messing up market confidence. The confidence of the market. Like we have to keep the confidence. Because again, $5. If you're not confident in these markets, if you're not confident in this money, what happens? It crashes because it's built on nothing but confidence. That's it. So what these people are saying, and we're going to watch a video here. What these people are saying is that these things weren't normal. We can't have this. So for the confidence of the markets, we have to make sure that we protect this stuff, right? I mean, a hedge fund was bankrupt that had 13 billion in assets. They were bankrupted. That's how far they went down the path of shorting GameStop. And when that happened, that's when the big powers that be said, whoa, whoa, This is starting to hit us now. We got to slow this down. And they did. But it's not over. Here's a video. Let's
Thomas, my final question was going to be, do you think this whole
hold on one second. That's the second one. Let me actually show the first one.
Clear. You're worried about the middlemen. Are you doing this move to protect yourself or to protect your customers?
Partly to protect ourselves, but mostly to protect, of course, to protect our customers. But
got him.
To protect the market.
Mm-hmm. Right. Hold on. We're gonna come back to this in a second, but largely to protect ourselves. I mean, to protect the customers. We gotta protect the customers. So it's largely to protect ourselves. We got to protect our customers and the market. But the markets could be manipulated 100% to destroy GameStop. But we got to be careful when it comes to destroying confidence in the market.
To protect the clearinghouse. So if there are $10 to $15 billion of losses in there, somebody has to pay them. Will they be able to pay it? It's a big question.
Thomas, do you understand people's anger, your customers' anger, given that essentially you changed the rules of the game right in the middle of the match, at the most important moment in the match? Even if your terms and conditions allow you to do that, do you understand their anger that you changed the terms of trade for them just as things were getting heated up?
I do, but when you say right in the middle of the game, then you're saying as the squeeze is going on, stronger and stronger. But that's illegal. That's manipulative. So it cannot be done.
It's illegal. It's manipulative. But nothing they're doing is illegal. Literally. They use the same system against them. Nothing they were doing was illegal. They just bought the stock. The hedge fund decided to short it. They saw that it was being shorted. It was artificially being manipulated. And just a bunch of people decided to buy the stock. It's not illegal. It's completely legal.
So do you think...
So I think somewhat responsible for what our customers are doing.
Do you think all people that have been long GameStop of late are part of market manipulation? I presume you don't. And therefore, what's your message to people?
I think people who buy this stock, which is worth maybe $17, buy it for $200, $300, $400, $500. I see no other reason but for them hoping for a short squeeze that it will go even higher.
Again, he has to flip this. Like, he has to think through this stuff. He's saying that people are buying the stock because they're only hoping for a short squeeze so they can go higher and higher. Why do you think they shorted the stock? They shorted it because they thought it would go lower and lower. But that was okay. You could do that.
But I presume you acknowledge, Thomas, that a huge portion of the people taking part are not involved in market manipulation. And what's your message to those customers where you've imposed the same restriction universally on all traders today?
But only on traders on this stock, and traders are free to liquidate their positions. We are just unwilling to give them an opportunity to buy more.
So when are you going to open it up again? When are people going to be allowed to trade again? How are you going to determine that?
When the markets in these items become normal again.
When the market in these items becomes normal again. What is normal? What is normal? This is the problem, right? This is it 100%. This is the problem. And I know we're over time, but give me a few more minutes here. We got to get through another video. But this is the problem. And by the way, apologize. The video I was shooting on my phone, and you could hear the dryer in the background. My apologies. I was trying to work and it popped up. I had to record it. But what's normal? What is considered normal? $10? Is that normal? I've heard multiple people say 17. Is that normal? Who decides what's normal? Who says this is normal and that's okay, but that's not? Who decides? What if these people decide we're going to hold this stock indefinitely? We're not going to sell it. So is it now a new normal if the price levels out at, I don't know, let's say 300, 350? Is that now normal? So if they short it again and it goes down to 100, are you going to halt the shorts? Because hold up, that's not normal. We have to get it back up to 300. Then we'll allow you to short it again. Is that going to happen? It's not. You know it's not. I know it's not. What's normal to them is just regular old status quo. It has to fit within their definition of normal because they control the system.
I doubt that because, this requires a lot of money.
Thomas, my final question was going to be, do you think this whole episode, the last couple of weeks, which has clearly driven a huge amount of volume, perhaps even many more account openings to you, has it been good for business or bad for business in the long term?
So far it's been good for business. On the long term, I'm not so sure because, as I said, there'll be a shakeout. A lot of people, it's a lot of money. And on the long run, that's never good for business. If the customers lose money, that's not good for business.
Thomas,
But they should pay attention to what they are buying and why they are buying it, and they should buy stocks because they think that the companies are doing well and they will do better and the stocks will go up for that reason, not because of a short squeeze.
Wait, what? You should buy it only for the conditions that I deem you should buy it? Really? That's what we're talking about? So we don't have rules on shorting it. You can short it. You feel like it's going to go down? Short it. Short it all day. Short it 147%. That's fine. Just don't buy it because there's, a social media craze, because I don't believe they really know what they're doing. Don't buy it for that. You need to buy it because you believe the company is doing well. They're telling you right to your face. I mean, it's all right there, right? It's glaringly obvious that this system is not built for the common man. This week was showing you that system being exposed. Now, rest assured, there are millionaires and billionaires that are in on this game and are getting rich. I mean, I just mentioned Michael Burry. He was long on GameStop and he sold some of his position last year, but he still was up like, I think 1,000% or something on like, I don't know, million something shares of it. Like he made out like gangbusters. And there were other firms who saw what was going on, saw that the markets were being manipulated to drive the price up, and they made out like gangbusters, right? Like, I mean, they know the system. They were watching it burn, and they're like, hey, let's get in on this, right? So it's not necessarily that this was a notch against the elite, right? And here's the closing thought here. It's not that there was a notch against the elite to where the elite have learned some lesson. Nah, they're just going to move to the same thing. We are 11 years, going on 12, from when all of the great recessions started. All of that happened from the bubble of banks selling things that were complete and utter crap. All of that happened. It crashed markets globally. Like, it was massive. And in less than 10 years, I would even argue in 6 years, or no, I would probably even say 4 or 5, we were back to normal. Even the vehicles that were used, CDOs and all this stuff, they were just repackaged and now they're being used again. We're just frogs sitting in water. It boils, we jump out. And then as soon as the water calms down, we jump back in. Some of us don't get out. Some of us get stuck in there. And it destroys us. So it's not going to change the elite. It's not really even going to change the system. They're going to pacify this. It's going to go on. And the only thing that's going to force something legit changing here is changing the money system. That's it. Because as long as they control the money, they can do this stuff all day. Right? Like, you can't come on here and say, oh, I'm going to, like Robinhood may be able to restrict you from, let's say, buying Dogecoin and making it slower for you to do that, or adding some requirements. But there are so many places where you could go get Doge, or you could get Bitcoin or whatever. They can't stop the flow of that. I could sell it to you directly. They can't stop that. So that just completely scares them. But just keep in mind that the fact that the system did take one on the chin, that hedge fund and people that were involved in that short, some of those things are mom and pop. Some of them are pension funds and things like that are there for the common man. So it's not all rosy that just a bunch of billionaires took a hit on the chin, because it's not. Sometimes some of it were smaller individuals, and that hedge fund is now bankrupted. They got an influx of liquidity from some other people, but it's going to hurt. It's going to trickle down for sure. It always does. They're not going to take the massive loss. Who's going to take the loss? The people that were invested in the hedge fund. And not all of those are multi-millionaire, billionaire people. So I'm here for burning the system in a way that the system can be switched to benefit the people. But just understand that when these sort of situations happen, there's always some people in the background that are gonna be puppet mastering this thing and watching the world burn and getting rich while that's happening. It always is. Anyway, chock full of stuff in this episode. It was fun. I couldn't wait. I was sitting over here itching. I was at noon. I was just in here just reading stuff like, ooh, I can't wait. Anyway, we're PFA. You can catch us Sunday, 2 p.m. and Tuesday, 7 p.m. God dang it. Why I botch it every week? I shouldn't be botching it at this time. Got to step my game up. Anyway, Sunday, 2 p.m., Tuesday, 7 p.m. Find all of our links at pfapodcast.com, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of us at PFA Podcast. And you can also view the live show right on YouTube. So go to pfapodcast.com and you can click the YouTube link. And we also post all the episodes there. So if you want to catch any of the past episodes, you can find them there. Also, we have clips. So we have now hired a video editor. Shout out to Al. He's going to be clipping our videos and start putting out our segments. So that way you can catch the individual segments one by one. So really excited about getting that out. Really amped up. You'll start seeing those come out this week. They'll start landing, and so we'll start getting those rolled out on a regular basis per episode. So anyway, we're PFA. We're out.